It's 7:03. The board previously met in closed session under exception C9, C1, C11, and C21, and we will be going back into closed session because we have work to do after the meeting, or discussion, no work. With that, I would like to go back and like to call to order the February 13th, 2024 Waukegan Board of Education meeting. If I can have a roll call.
Mr. Riddle?
Present.
Mr. McBride?
Present.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Here.
Ms. Fabian? Ms. Lindsay?
Present.
President Ewing?
Here, so we do have all board members present. With that, I'd like a motion to resume open session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Riddle, second by Ms. Lindsay. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. We're now back in open session. Mr. Pacias, if you'd be so kind as to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so President's report is brief. Happy Black History Month. There are tons of events that are happening throughout the district, so I encourage you to find out what's going on, get involved, visit if you can. I do want to thank everybody back, and I do want to take a second because there was a former educator who came to this podium and said that, you know, people pass and we don't always get the information. So I'd just like to have a moment of silence, one, for Larry Tempest, because we did not do that from the podium, and he served both this city and the school district for decades, right? And so that is a legacy that we definitely want to honor. But for any of those former staff members, named and unnamed, who we may have lost. If you know a name, Ms. Anna, yeah.
Ron Hernandez.
Thank you. And so again, if I don't know, it's because I don't know. Charge it to my mind and not my heart. But moment of silence. Thank you. And so in order to allow for there to be additional time for the rest of the agenda items, I will cede the rest of my time. And Mr. Hinojosa, it is on you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President Ewing. Hi, everyone. Hope everyone's doing great today. Myself, I'm a little tired, but you know, that's me every other day. But here today is my 20th Student Board Member Report. We already hit 20 reports. Crazy in my opinion, honestly, but time flies. This specific report, if we go on to the next slide, is going to be a recap of what I exactly did in DC with the accompanying of Miss Fabian and Miss Castellano, who came as my chaperone. And honestly, this was a very great experience, I would say so myself. I learned a lot. I experienced viewpoints different by my own and really went out and really experienced outside of Waukegan at a political level and a personal level for the really first time. So if we go on to the next slide. So what was the point of the trip? That's like a lot of students actually asked me that question when I came back, other than telling me if I took a lot of pictures. But obviously, this is why basically I let them know. The National School Board Advocacy Institute is a forum to lobby, collaborate, and network with fellow board members across the nation on critical educational issues and lobby for federal legislation. For me, obviously, it would be student board members, which I can say there was one there actually from Maryland. Such a nice fellow, had a great time talking to him and really networking and seeing how Maryland does their student board members and how progressive they are in their own processes and being able to bring that to Illinois, right? On my point as student board member, it is critical for student board members to attend national conferences to further our own knowledge / familiarize to the whole educational sphere and bring back ideas and viewpoints that can be beneficial for the students we served. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Next slide, please. So what did I learn? This is the number one thing that I've seen to learn in this entire conference, that WPS 60 is top tier at really serving its students. And so what do I mean by this exactly? I have my little notes here, so if you see me looking down, I have my notes on my computer. Obviously, we're going to talk more in detail what other stuff that happened or like sessions that I went to. But one big thing was the free school lunch program that our school district has been doing for a few years now. honestly, when I was at some of these conferences, a lot of states were fighting tooth and nail to really have this in stature, honestly, in some of these states. And being able to sit there and being told, so what does your school district do? And I'm like, oh, we do free school lunch programs for all our students. And they had just this bewildered look on their faces, like, how did you even do that, right? You could ask the superintendent that question, how that exactly happened. But that's one of them. Having robust CTE class selections, this was more specific to Dr. Temple Grandin's speech, which was amazing, honestly, and being able to really see the viewpoints of neurodivergent students and being able to cater for their different learning mechanisms and seeing how that's a little different and also at the same time same to neurotypical students at the same time. But we'll talk about that in a second. Also having a robust DL program, which I also found out a lot of students are having problems with, really implementing that at their school level. It's a lot of school districts which concerned me a little, honestly, but they did see that Waukegan is at that tier of really giving DL students the necessary items to have a world-class education. And obviously there were like key points that the National School Board had, obviously prioritizing mental health and wellness, securing funding for the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, which was a big thing at the conference, advocating for Photo Title I funding, access to technology, school nutrition and funding, and accountability on public funds. And on top of student board member issues, which I did have chances to talk to some people about and being able to bring that forward. Next slide, please. Session review. Obviously, I didn't go to every single session because they turned it on us halfway through the conference where they gave us a bunch of options, and I couldn't go to all of them, which honestly, there was a good amount that I did want to go, but I couldn't, unfortunately. So these are just some of them that I had the very great pleasure of going. Next slide, please. So one of them is going to court against social media. So basically, the entire point of this session itself, if I could get my notes, was, as always, reviewing social media litigation and obviously how school districts across the country are suing social media companies itself, Waukegan being one of those school districts. Obviously, a whole point of the entire presentation is also talking about that, but at the same time talking about statistical evidence to support these lawsuits. Some of the notes that I took is obviously like 90% of 13 to 17-year-olds use social media, which is true because I'm using it. Also, about 3.1 million students, about 12 to 17 years old, get mental health services in an educational setting, more than any other type of place that you can get mental health services, which honestly is a lot. And a big case that these lawyers and school board members were making, obviously, is that the case is not to end social media, which is a big thing that they wanted to say, but end the practices of the social media companies of targeting students without really having any guardrails at all. And also, at the end of this, they are able to win these lawsuits, are to obviously obtain funding to increase screening, intervention, and treatment of students with mental health struggles, hire more mental health professionals, developing further mental health resources, and just training teachers to assist students with mental health issues, which is all fair stuff that we should be giving our students in the first place, right? Unfortunately, the other student board member wasn't at this at this specific session. He was at a different one. So I was the only one that stood up and actually asked a few questions. Two questions that I ask is, where is the student voice in this process exactly? And how can we get involved in this, right? Because obviously a lot of student friends are very much under the impression that these lawsuits are to take away the right to social media for yada yada this, yada yada that, when that's not really the point, right? The point is to really have these social media companies crack down on their predatory schemes that they usually do with their platforms, right? And really telling them that if we want students on board with this and making this more vocal, you need to be able to understand what students are going through and what their thought process with this, and being able to clear those misconceptions, which obviously they really did like that. I came up to talk about that as the only student there, and obviously they did say how we can get involved is really telling other students what the point of these lawsuits are, and obviously talking to the school districts of really making those programming on how to really understand this process itself. But that's one of those sessions. Next slide, please. Is what's happening in the states, which is another one that was a panel of 5 states, which actually I think was like 2 people from each state, so it was a pretty big panel. Basically, it's just talking about what's happening in any specific state at any specific time. So some of the 2 big things that they talked about was the free school lunch programs and school vouchers throughout the United States. Some of them, the states that were there, were Michigan, Colorado, Kansas, Virginia, and Tennessee. Very lovely people, honestly. As I said before, a lot of these school districts are really fighting tooth and nail with their state legislatures to really get this funding. Obviously, Michigan had a process already from last year, and they're fighting pretty much tooth and nail at this point to really get it codified into law. They said about their price tag for this was about $160 million. Now, I don't remember if that was the exact price tag. From what I remember, I was looking back at my notes and I was writing very quickly. So I apologize if the numbers are a little off. And obviously, one way that Michigan does it is that parents need to sign up for this. And it's not just a thing that is just given to students on automatically, right? And one thing that they did do to really get 100% participation in high school students was when students went to go pick up their registration and high school schedules, you're not getting that if you don't fill out the form first, which literally got 100% participation, which I found crazy, honestly. That I don't know how that was possible, honestly, but they went at it and got 100% participation at high schools, which is pretty cool, honestly, and gave these students those chances for free lunch, honestly, which is always a bonus for students. Another discussion is with Colorado, which having a taxpayer bill of rights and how to really work with that in their constitution and being able to give students this, but also not breaking, constitutional law on their part. And they talked a little bit about that. And the school voucher one was pretty much just saying, call school vouchers for what they are exactly. Don't say that they're scholarships. Don't say that they're grants. Don't say this and that. Say that they're vouchers and they're taking money from public schools. It's that simple. That's all you need to say. And one story that they talked about was in Michigan, which was really political in about 2 seconds, and I'm just not going to go through the entire story, but they basically said that the Michigan Republicans were trying to put like an initiative, and there was a lot of like signature fraud just to like make a point that this can happen, but obviously it didn't get passed, fortunately. And they just talked about how we need to fight and say no to vouchers itself, which I feel like a lot of us can agree on that point. But that was one of those panels. Next slide, please. The speech from Dr. Temple Grayden. I love this speech so much, honestly. Pretty much it was just to discuss her new book, which was Visual Thinking, The Hidden Gifts of People Who Think in Pictures, Patterns, and Abstractions. And basically the entire point of this entire speech was really that we need to cater to all students, and that students learn in a multitude of ways, right? And that at the end of the day, we do need to cater to students that are neurodivergent, and that they may learn in one different way and not what we think is traditional with neurotypical students. They may learn in a kinesthetic approach, may they think in a visual approach, honestly. And it doesn't really matter which way we put it, that we need to give students these proper education tools and be giving them the proper necessary items to be giving that world-class education, just like I said last time. And obviously opening that door for education, may that be liberal arts or vocational education itself, or any other way of really pursuing a career after that. And obviously, one point that she made was that CTE classes are a great way of giving students are kinesthetic and that maybe neurodivergent in a sense need a more hands-on approach, and these are great ways which connect straight to our vocational career classes and stuff like that. So really brought a new view to me, honestly, on what we should be doing for our DL students and students that are neurodivergent, right? But great speech, loved every minute of it. She was very funny, honestly, a great person, just a great vibe overall, honestly. Next slide, please. And the last one, this presentation was absolutely crazy. Basically, it says about AI, implications for education, which was basically a workshop from Alex Cotran. I think that's how you say his last name. He's the CEO of AI EDU, which is basically a company that really talks about AI and how we could integrate that into education. And basically the entire point of his speech was to really talk about how AI is on the horizon of education, if we like it or not, and that we need to be able to understand that we sooner rather than later need to be putting this into our education. And he was giving like a million examples of how this is moving so quickly. Let me get my notes down here. If I wrote on it, no, I did not. So one big thing that he talked about was policy itself, and there was actually a board member that was probably like, I don't know how old the person was, but he was like, the first thing that he asked, like this was the first question, and he was like, oh, so we write policy right now about this? And the guy was like, absolutely not. Do not write policy on something that we don't even know how it will develop in the next 2 or 3 years. He was talking about how we need to teach our teachers first how to work with this system before we even write policy itself, which kind of clicked in my mind and really switched a gear on my mind when it comes to policy without knowing exactly how it works, which I'm a using honestly on myself when it comes to policy writing, which is great. But overall, just knowing how AI works and how we need to teach our students and our teachers and be able to use this side by side when it comes to education moving forward, right? That was that one. Next slide, please. The day on the Hill. Okay. These are some pictures that we took. We had the great honor of meeting Representative Schneider. Here's a picture of me and a picture with Ms. Fevia and Ms. Castaños, and really getting to talk with Representative Schneider and getting into his offices on such short notice, honestly, and being able to talk with him about the district, educational policy, and just in general Waukegan and how much he appreciates the work that we do as board members. Great guy, very funny, and he actually gave me one of those pins that he has on his shirt. I don't know if you could see it. These pictures are very small. We also went to the Hart office building with Tammy Duckworth. We got tickets to go to the Senate Gallery and the House Gallery. Very eye-opening experience, honestly, getting into these buildings and stuff like that. And this specific picture right here was me just putting a thumbtack at the wall that she had in our office for Tammy Duckworth for any visitor going where exactly they came from Illinois. And there is actually some people that came from Wisconsin, Iowa, and like Indiana that are like scattered around. And I was wondering if that was just kids putting stuff in there. But it was a great experience on the Hill, really able to really learn how politics works in the country and really seeing it firsthand. But it was a great experience, and honestly getting lost in the tunnels of the Capitol for a good 30-40 minutes. It wasn't a lot of walking. It was a lot, honestly, a lot of walking and getting lost in there, but great experience. A lot of gift shops, honestly, underground under the Capitol. Always bumping into a gift shop, honestly, but it was a great experience on the Capitol, and just being able to go and experience itself. Some stuff that I didn't add in this picture was actually going to the National Portrait Gallery and really able to see the history of America through portraits and being able to really connect to that. That was a big thing for me, honestly, and a lot of those portraits, which we're going to take pictures of that. And obviously just going around DC itself and really visiting and seeing what the city's like itself. Next slide, please. Actually, I'm going to say questions, but there's actually 2 slides after this, but we won't move to those until if anybody has any questions. The last 2 are actually surprises. Yes, Ms. Lensing.
Very exciting, and I love the amount of information you gain from this. I just have a couple of quick things.
Yes.
In the AI discussion, did they talk about the ethics around AI?
Yes, they did talk a little bit about how it is used for malice things, and actually they made a whole little video about Joe Biden talking about a magic pistachio and make it sound like he actually said it and stuff like that, and showing how unethical it can turn very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And showing the evolution of AI from being able to just create this one thing to like a whole 10-minute video.
Yeah, and I think it's important that our teachers and our students learn how to use AI, but without a code of ethics, it's going to be hard to do any policy from there. And then I'm very curious, and I'll take this as a takeaway, but for Dr. Temple Grandin, for thinking in pictures, to me, that's visual imagery, and that's how I learned to teach comprehension to everyone, so that's really universal. So I'm excited to see how that's different for those on the spectrum. And just a reminder to parents out there with regard to the social media aspect, you have to stay involved. You have to understand how these platforms work. There are legitimate pipelines. Parental controls aren't 100%. So have open conversations with your students, not only for their mental health, but their physical safety as well. It's something that you have to be very diligent on. Hearing 97% of kids use it is a bit alarming considering how damaging it is, but just I encourage you to get involved and really understand the tools and how to talk to your students about safely using them. That's all I had.
So just to add to the Temple Grandin, if you go onto YouTube, there is like a really quick 20-minute video that she does that summarizes the longer version that we had, and it goes beyond. It explains deeply what visual thinking is to her in comparison to neurotypical. But for those educators that may not have their DL certs, it's also, she gives some good tips on how to do classroom management and to really think about that there are children in your classrooms that could benefit from these different tips. And that's where she was coming about on the CTE, because we're losing a lot of students interested in CTE because we're not getting them that kinesthetic learning. So that was just her whole speech was hilarious, and she allowed for questions, and she was very brutally honest with everyone there. I want to just add, I know you have a couple more slides, but I just want to add, I was very, very, very proud of Victor the entire time. He held his own with conversations with adults, answered all the questions, was such a great representative of Waukegan, and just impressed everyone there. And so they were asking us for our information, like how do we do student voice? How do we add student board members to our districts and nationally, right? So it wasn't just Illinois, but we did run into other Illinois folks there too that were like, we are going to stay connected just to get more information from him. So again, he did such a great job on really representing Waukegan and keeping up because I did kind of have to plan an itinerary the night before because I wasn't planning on staying with them. And so he was a good sport and kept up and again, was just, just very impressive and lovely to be around.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Now that you're done talking, but yeah.
But I appreciate those kind words, Ms. Fabian, and honestly, it was a great experience. I said it before, and I enjoyed absolutely every moment of it, and being able to thank the board and the administration on working tooth and nail of sending me here and being able to show that student board member voice is important here in Waukegan. And speaking of that, actually, we have the next slide. Senate Bill 3773. After 3 months of partnership with the National Student Board Members Association and policy writing, which was a lot of meetings, on February 9th, 2024, State Senator Adrienne Johnson filed Senate Bill 3773, the first bill since 2005 to expand and codify student board members in Illinois. This bill was in the works for a good while since I started this position, and Senator Johnson was more than glad to file this within the Illinois Senate and being able to really push student board members and really giving this seat to them, every single school district in this state. And I appreciate the National Student Board Member Association with Zachary Patterson, Annika Yu, and absolutely everybody else that works in this association to really bring this bill into light. And we are working very hard with Senator Johnson to get this passed in the Illinois Senate, pass it through the House, and get Governor Pritzker to really pass this, and being able to show that student board members matter in our country and that our voice is as important as we are the ones sitting in these classrooms. And I appreciate the work that they did and Senator Johnson swiftly sending this to the Illinois Senate. Yes.
Okay, now, it is in the school code, but what my question, and hopefully.
Yes.
The microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's in the code, the school code, about student board members, but what I am interested in, what I didn't like about the code was that it only called for one board member, and I'm hoping that with the legislation that Senator Johnson is putting in the bill, that it adds more than just one student board member.
And I can say that the bill does have that provision in there and is one of the very first things that states in there. And I was very keen on telling them that that is something that needs to be added on here. And actually, I wrote the entire bill. Obviously, it had to be edited and stuff like that, but it was one of the key things with the National Student Board Member Association and their policy team, which I worked with, to really get this started and really pushing this forward. And as always, I appreciate Senator Johnson for really getting this forward, and we'll see what happens. I am very hopeful for the future and showing that within the next year or two, we may have student board members in every single school district in this state, which is very, very, very exciting for me, and honestly pushing the Illinois National Student Board Member Association, which I'm working on keenly to get that done. Yes.
Well, you know, there's the commercial, so it's just a bill trying to get to Capitol Hill. So I'm hoping with you.
Absolutely. But that's one of them. And the last slide, I know this has been a long presentation, I apologize, but this is another professional development that I went a few days ago, which is the National Student Board Member Association's Winter Summit. And I had the honor to really talk and discuss and network with about 20 student board members across the country in the first Winter Summit that this organization has had. And we discussed current state policy, future federal legislation, and really networking to foster ideas. I talked to a lot of student board members, went in a lot of breakout rooms, really able to discuss with them on how one state does it, how we do it, and how we could push forward other policies. Zachary Patterson was one of the guest speakers. Obviously, he was the chair of the board of advisors for the organization, but obviously it's always fun to hear him, honestly. And Sami Saeed, such an amazing person, really shows the example of what student board members can be, especially in Maryland. I have absolutely no words. His speech was amazing, honestly, and gave me inspiration and just kept my hope up, honestly, that we still can push stuff like this, and student board members and student voice is important in school districts, which really brought my spirits back up, honestly. But as always, the National Student Board Member Association is a great organization to work with, great people, and really creating a student version of like the National School Boards Association, right? And being able to show that parallel. But with that, I don't know if there's another slide. Yes, there was another slide, and it's that. That's actually my logo that we created a few months ago. But with that, that is the end of my presentation. Yes.
Just for history, you see you at one of your conferences, you talked about free lunch and vouchers. Just for history, back in the day, there was a group called the Black Panthers. They had a passion enough to start that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And I give the rest of my balance of my time.
I was just going to add, so the big point of the entire conference was also looking over legislation and appropriations that are coming up in 2024. And so there is some guiding documents. All of it is nonpartisan, right, or bipartisan, really, of how to talk to your your legislators, to get some of these things passed or appropriately funded so that public schools nationwide can do what they need to do in order to support all students. So if anybody wants more information on that, I know Victor has some information, I do as well, but really I encourage all of us to really look at the issues that are coming up and really make your voice known, talk to your legislators and really let them know, because we're looking at the appropriations for IDEA, and I think currently there's only at agreement for 30% of funding of where it is now. So that would be a huge cut. So things like that are very, that's very alarming, and so we need to make sure that we're on top of those kinds of things.
All right, thank you. And so we are now at next part of our agenda. So we do have individuals from the Waukegan Schools Foundation. If you all would be so kind, I think we're getting that presentation up. Bless you.
Oh, are we gonna go up in the podium?
I mean, this is you guys' presentation. What do you want?
Yeah, go down there if you want, I guess. Sorry. We got it. It's a night.
And you get to hear my voice once again. Hello, everyone. I am here on behalf of Waukegan Public Schools Foundation as well. So we have the pleasure of announcing our annual Waukegan Strong Scholarship. If you want to go to the next slide. We really need a clicker. So we have our board president, which is our foundation president, which is Mr. Grimes, who has always been very active with our foundation for several years now. Mr. Alzakis, who is our executive director, Brian Luosa, who's our treasurer, I'm the secretary, and Adriana also serves as a board representative of Waukegan Public Schools Board. Not present today is Ms. Martha Padilla Ramos and Ms. Lisa Meggs and James Henry, but we also have Josue Pacias and Ms. Charlotte Callahan-Wozniak, who are also members, and they are present here today. And I actually want to do a shout out to Josue and Adriana, because they were very adamant about creating this scholarship. So it's still in existence and something that we are really passionate about continuing every year. So if you want to go next slide. So it was established during the pandemic in order to support our students because we knew that there was additional financial hardships in order to motivate them to get through that virtual learning and get on to college or university. And so we opened it to seniors across Waukegan High School in the form of a Google form. Next slide. And so these are a list of our previous winners. And some of them still reach out to us and kind of let us know what they're doing. Last year's winners are already settled in to their schools and so far have been doing very well. I know Isam has also posted that he's continuing on with his programming too. So we've seen some really outstanding students come through. Next slide. And so this year we're going to continue doing 2 $3,000 scholarships. You must be a Waukegan Public Schools or Waukegan High Schools senior in order to apply. You can use that QR code to get to that Google form. There is also a tiny URL that you can use to get onto the link. Again, it's open to all Waukegan High School seniors. And this year, we're glad to announce that we're also opening up the opportunity for those who would like to go to a trade school. So it's not just if you're going to a college or university. If you are planning to go to trade school, we would love for you to apply. It's very easy to fill out. I think, maybe 10 minutes? Depending. Your essays might be a little bit more. Yes, but. And we're looking for students who are community service based, giving back to Waukegan. So that is the primary focus of our grants. And then the next slide. So this is the timeline. So it is active and open currently. So any student can go ahead and begin applying tonight. Please share this link and this information with any Waukegan seniors that you know. The applications are due by April 1st. By April 1st. Oh, we have our dates and times mixed up here. So it should be applications are due by midnight on April 1st. And then the foundation, the second step is we interview students. Those are always a pleasure. And then after we interview the students on April 15th, not April 1st, we will start scheduling them on April 15th. By May 1st, we will announce who the winners are for this school year. If you want to go to the next slide. And then if you want to connect with us, that is our Facebook and our email. We are accepting donations in order to contribute to the foundation jackpot so we can continue this every single year. So please reach out if you'd like to contribute or if you have any questions on the scholarships. And I don't know if any of you want to say anything else.
Nick, have you sent out the emails to all the seniors? So they should have all the seniors should have gotten an email regarding this.
And we're also a 501c3 flow-through organization, so it's tax deductible.
Go ahead, Ms.
And I'll add one thing. When we created the scholarship, we were very adamant about awarding it to students who contributed their time to their community. And so if you look at our recipients from the past, they've been student school board members, they've been leaders in JROTC or student council members. So we were really looking for those individuals that are committed to Waukegan and also have a commitment to come back after college and do more for their community.
Just add in there, Ms. Williams.
Okay, just now, is this,
Sorry, Ms. Anna, can you use the mic?
is this, information being given to, the, college and career?
I can answer that, Ms. Anna. Yeah, so as soon as we made the link live, because we edited it, I sent it out to a bunch of different counselors, a bunch of different teachers that I know teach seniors, specifically in literature. And if any of the teachers want me to send it to them personally via our foundation email, I can send it to them as well.
Right, the College and Career Center
Yes.
over at
Yes.
AOEC.
I send it to Miss Fulton and a couple people, yeah. Including Waukegan College and some of those folks too, yes.
Ms. Lindsay?
So just a quick clarification for me. So when we say seniors, are we doing credit-based seniors, or they're in their 4th year on track to graduating?
Yeah, they have to be graduating this year and enrolled in an accredited institution via either trade or 4-year college institution for the fall.
No, not COC.
Yes, that counts. Yes,
Okay.
accredited institution. COC is that.
All right, thank you.
Can I add one more
Yeah.
thing? Also, because it is important, even if our students who apply, if the applicants do not receive the scholarship, I do send an email with a thank you for applying and a resource, and I do call back to the College and Career Center so that they know about the township scholarship, the Parks Foundation scholarship, all the scholarships that we might have a connection to, and tell them to connect with their counselor so that they continue applying, because they could just recycle and remix the essays that they used, honestly, to get other opportunities, if not ours.
And to piggyback, each year I'm going to volunteer, but Ms. Gonzalez does an amazing job of finding what other opportunities exist in the community. So if you do know a resource, I know many sororities, fraternities, etc., have different scholarships. If you send those to her, is it just A. Gonzalez?
A.D. Gonzalez.
A.D. Gonzalez.
I don't know the foundation email.
Or the foundation email. So
Yeah.
A.D. Gonzalez at WPS60, or that foundation email that was presented in the presentation. We compile a list, and then we just try and do a blast, because so many times scholarships go unclaimed. And we have many students that we want to make sure that they have multiple opportunities, right? If you only get 2 and 20 people apply, but if we have as a community over 50 different scholarships, we want to make sure that our students are taking those opportunities. And then I know, Mr. Pasillas is a GATE scholar, so we can have other individuals that are applying, and we know where those resources and opportunities exist. So thank you.
Yeah, to that point. And excuse me, and to that point, Ms. Gonzalez, I think you're on target, because me being on the township, we got a scholarship fund too. And what wind up happening at the end of the year, nobody applied. So great job.
Well done.
Awesome. All right, we are now we are approval of previous minutes of the meetings. So we have approval of the minutes open session board meeting for January 23rd, 2024, and approval of the minutes of the special open session board workshop for February 6th, 2024. I'm going to take them separate because I don't believe, Mr. Riddle, you were here
I wasn't here
for
for
the
February.
6th. So what we'll do is motion to approve item 8A.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by, I'm going to take Ms. Hannah, I heard you first, and then Ms. Gonzalez. And then any comments, questions, corrections to the minutes? All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Minutes are approved. Now we have item 8B, approval of the minutes of the special open session board workshop, February 6, 2024.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Hannah, second by Ms. Gonzalez. Any comments, questions on the motion, corrections to the minutes? All in favor signify by aye. Aye.
Mr. Riddle passes.
Ms. Riddle passes. Any opposed?
No,
All
but
right.
I do got a comment about that.
Go ahead, Ms.
That
Hannah.
was our workshop, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and I was, it was, the workshop was conducted good. However, it was more of a presentation of the information, and I was expecting for it to be more of a working workshop, so to speak, where we're putting it together instead of just listening at the presentation. But it was good.
Thank you, Ms. Hannah. Roll call. Oh, we already took the vote, so thank you. Opportunity for public comment. When I call your name, please come up to the podium. I'll call multiple names at a time. If you guys can line up to expedite the process. Each speaker will get 3 minutes. If you need translation services will be provided to you, and you will get 6 minutes. But we do ask, we want to remind all our speakers of civility. We ask that you refrain from mentioning student and staff member names in your remarks. First name on the list is Chester. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Chester, you can start speaking.
Yes, Brandy, I called you about 3 weeks ago. I needed an answer on a question, but you never called me back. So I called the Board of Education in the state of Illinois, and they gave me the answer that I was looking for. So thanks for answering me back. And also, I see the graduation rate is 78%, but you cut all these credits for the kids to graduate, but they still can't go to college. They got to go to college to finish up their high school stuff. Is that fair to them? I don't think so. What else was it? Eighth grade algebra, 17%. Reading, 7%. ELA, 10%. So I was wondering, would you all go back to housing? Would you ever think about housing? When they had housing, there wasn't much problems. There were problems, but it wasn't as it is now. There's a lot of fighting going on, kids down on the ground being kicked. So we got to solve the problem, and it starts at the top. So you have to find a solution. So the district should give the money back to the taxpayers for poor quality of teaching our children. So that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Chester. If we could reset the clock. Next name is Ray Vukovic, and then we have Andrea Moore.
Hi. Good evening. I'd like to speak about item 13C, superintendent's contract. And I've looked over the information that was provided online, and I have to say that it's kind of clear as mud. You're going to recommend a bonus because she achieved 3 of 5 targets, but I don't see anywhere in here what those targets were that were met. There's exhibits. Exhibit C, superintendent's performance goals for 23-24 school year, are C, and then superintendent's targets for 23-24. That's the same year. So is that the way it's supposed to be, or is this for the next year? And if these are new goals, when were they discussed? You can talk about the superintendent's performance in a closed session and talk about a bonus, but as far as setting goals, that's supposed to be done in an open session. I brought that up last week to you about the Hinsdale School District was found by the Illinois Attorney General's office that particular item has to be dealt with in an open session. So if you've talked about that, I come to every session. I have not heard that talked about openly. If you talked about that in a closed session, you shouldn't be voting on that tonight. You should hold it in an open session and talk about it. Some of the items on here, opening up the wraparound center, not questioning the wraparound center. But when you have a goal like that, it should be two-sided. It should be within budget. Somebody goes and says, we're going to get that open no matter what, and 6 months from now you find out there's a 15% cost overrun. There needs to be that type of thing. Schools meeting, getting ESSA designation. If all it takes is one more school, are we going to put all the resources into a couple of schools so we get that up? Is that fair for the other kids? And let's not forget about the thing that I brought up here week after week after week, the minutes. I know that the board attorney and the board president received a letter last fall basically saying that I was right about that the district was delinquent in getting board minutes. That's what are the superintendent's duties. So if you're going to reward her for getting some of these things done, at what point do you hold her accountable for something like that has taken a lot of staff time answering my complaint because I kept telling you were in violation of state law. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vukovic. Ms. Moore, and then Randy Sabecki.
Hello, my name is Andrea Moore. I'm an alumni, also a lived experience member with the Lake County Coalition for the Homeless, and I am going to speak on the event hosted by FACE, which is the Family and Community, what is it?
Engagement.
That part, right? And I guess this is just like the whole District 60s event here. QR code leads you to the new AI data collection thingamabobber. I don't know. If you scan that QR code, it's going to take you to the ABRE's website, asking someone to sign in if you have interest in knowing more, because it's very, very simple and just basic and questionable why this paper is so big and why that's so small, and how there's no involvement from people or groups like the Black Parent Network, and how they came along because there was a assessment or analysis with the the diversity, equity, inclusion, and basically FACE is supposed to be bridging communication between the school, the district, community, and parents, otherwise stakeholders, with the students in support of them. But instead, they're hosting the Black History Month event. Again, they have the Black Parent Network, we have BSU, the Black Student Union. While I love the fact that we support our national student board, no one has ever talked about the Black Student Union. I know they presented last year. I did a lot of volunteerism with them, and they're a great group of kids, and the president's a senior. And I have a little brother who just actually is a freshman this year, and he's doing really well. Actually, somebody who he thinks history is easy. He actually just got, he requested to be put in the AP class, and he was allowed that, which is pretty awesome. But he's someone who's like, I don't see BSU anywhere. And I'm like, they're there, you gotta find, you gotta look. But if it's that hard to find it, is it really something that would draw them in? And if this is Black History Month, where are the Black faces, voices, and persons in the community that are going to promote it and or allow the students within the school district to feel empowered and seen and understood? I don't own a home. A lot of us Black people don't, actually, property, right? But I know the people who are paying the taxes that are supposed to be leading to our education, the return on investment. It's not there. If we could just really take advantage of this rare opportunity where we are supposed to be considering things. Again, FACE, you're supposed to be supporting the Black Student Parent Network, right? Or BSU students, you're supposed to be bridging, not hosting a gala. What are we celebrating? What has District 60 done that we want to have a gala at the Genesee Theater when we have the high school? We don't even need to go there. I don't understand it all, but please do something.
Thank you.
Mrs. Zabecki, and then final name on the list is Virginia Briscoe.
Good evening. First, I want to congratulate Jack Benny, Junior High, for the ceremony they put on for their honor roll students. Again, a lot of parents attended, a lot of honor roll students, not one board member, not one administrator besides the principals of the building were even there to show up to support these kids. How come we show up in elementaries and that, but we don't show up for the junior high kids? There was a lot of kids that made honor roll and high honor roll, especially with the state of teachers that we're at right now, where a lot of the teachers over there have long-term subs, different teachers in the rooms every period. We just hired an ELA teacher to replace the one that couldn't no longer stay, and she's already gone. Not even 3 weeks. So now ELA is 2 periods, first and second, that my kid's in that room. How's it fair to these kids when we're just putting babysitters in there basically, and there's no instruction going on? We give them a computer assignment to do. How is that fair to our kids? First period, it's not even the same teacher both periods. We'll put a gym teacher in there 1 period, and then we'll put the climate control specialist in there the 2nd period. So how are these kids learning? That's not fair to them. And for these kids still to make honor roll? And who's doing the grades? We just choosing grades for these kids? Because if you have a sub every single day, it's a different teacher. How are they being graded? How are we giving quizzes? How are we giving tests? On what? Because the instruction stops. The instruction is not, here's a computer assignment, let's finish it. So I'd like to see more support for these kids from administration at these events. Second thing I wanted to talk about is the superintendent's goals, and that's on the agenda tonight. $18,000. It says met 3 of the 5 goals. What were the goals? They're not listed. Under Exhibit C, it only gives you 4 goals. So if she met 3 of 5, where's the 5th goal? It's not even there. And then if these are the numbers we're proud of, freshmen on track, 69.5%, plus 2%. Again, we keep asking, instead of putting the percents there, if you guys do put the percents there, can we put the actual numbers there so we can see what that percentage is out of ours? ELA proficiency, 15.8%, 1.7. ESSA designation, 1 school improving. Did any go down? Because we should also be putting that information there, not just this 1 school that improved. It should be showing even the ones that didn't. If we had any schools that went down, that should be part of that. We should be giving bonuses because 1 school approved out of what? We have 19 schools?
Thank you, Mr. Becky. Ms. Briscoe, final comments.
Good evening. I felt like I would be remiss if I didn't take the opportunity to come up to the podium to talk about what's happening with the African Male Initiative. I came up years saying, where is it, what's happening? So for the community standpoint and for the board, I want to say it is moving along. I am very pleased at the progress that it's making. I'm very pleased at the number of members that have taken an active role from the district, and also they've invited community members and a parent that's on the committee. We are moving, and I know no names are supposed to be spoken about, but I just want to give Tasia Fields her kudos for what she's done in order to move that program along. So more to come, and the community and as a community member, I'm speaking up for the community, say we need to keep the community informed as far as what's happening and what we're doing, because it's been a minute. I think the last community meeting was in December, and so we need to keep the community informed as far as what's happening. Second thing that I want to talk about is that I want to go back to what the first speaker said about the houses. Some kind of way the students have given me access to their IG account, and I see the fights and I see what's happening in the schools. If you just go there, you wouldn't be aware. They post everything, everything. And some kind of way they have given me access. I see it. I see the fights on a daily basis, and I see how they talk and how they speak and what they're saying, and it's not good. And I know that when I came along, the houses were already dismantled, but from what I'm hearing, it was a good thing. Maybe if we could go back and revisit it and maybe take parts of it and maybe see how to incorporate that, but something definitely needs to happen. I see it, I'm aware of it. I don't know if all you guys have access to the IG, but it is horrible. It's horrible. So maybe if the board could go back and reconsider, maybe taking parts of it or something. We need to do something with the school over there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Briscoe. We do appreciate all of the comments that were spoken. There were things and questions that were raised, so the superintendent has the list, and someone from the administration will be reaching out. All right, we're at item 13A, personnel for 2/13/2024.
It is the recommendation that the Board of Education accept the administration's recommendation to approve the appointments and retirements and accept the resignations as found on schedules F1002, L949, and G660.
I motion to approve the recommendation.
Motion by Ms. Gonzalez, second by Ms. Hannah. Any comments, questions on the motion?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Ms.
I just want to confirm, was it updated based on the information we were provided?
Mr. Alajakis.
Unupdated. Is this on? Good evening, everyone, Board of Education, community members. An updated version will be uploaded to board docs that indicates the information that was shared in closed session at the end of tonight's meeting. And so that'll be there for the future, as well as for, I guess, when finance looks at it, it's not relevant at that point, but generally that's where finance will go and look to make sure that all the pieces are relevant in terms of salary and such.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So there's issues with it.
So the motion is voting to approve it as amended.
So we rescind?
Or is that the motion?
I motion to approve as amended,
amended.
once it gets updated.
I'll second that.
Second. Roll call.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Ms. Fabian?
Yes.
Ms. Lindsay?
Yes.
President Ewing?
Yes, item approved, motion carries. We're now at item 13B, approval of new crossing guard positions, 5 positions.
It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Education approve 5 new crossing guard positions. The estimated annual cost is $49,280.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McBride, second by Ms. Hannah. Any comments or questions on the motion?
I'm glad that we are adding the crossing guards, because there are streets that I go down, and there actually needs to be someone there, and it doesn't necessarily have to be for the elementary students. You know, the middle school students, even the high school students have to cross the street safely, and the way, unfortunately, the way that a bunch of them are on their phones, and they're just walking,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
and so there needs to be people there to help them. So I'm glad to see that, and I am. Did we raise their annual salary? I know it's just a meager amount, but just a lift for the people that stand out in the rain, the cold, the snow, you know, the heat. It helps them, and it shows that we value them as well.
Ms. Lindsay and Ms. Fabian.
I just wanted to second Ms. Hannah's comments, especially where it pertains to the high school. I attended a meeting at Brookside, and my anxiety was through the roof with the students crossing. And I just want to make sure that not only the students aren't on their phones while they're crossing the street, drivers aren't on their phones while navigating. It is very chaotic and very hectic. I'm very glad to see this here, but I'm echoing those sentiments.
Thank you, Ms. Fabian.
Well,
And then, sorry, I just wanted to say, although we're approving these, that doesn't mean that we have people ready on board. So we are going to need community assistance to get these positions filled, because they are difficult positions to fill, since they are, you know, odd time slots. So again, can you guys help us, help our kids, and share this out? But also, as parents during drop-off, can we be mindful of the signs that say, you know, do not stop here, do not park here, and follow the route that is given by your schools? Too many times I'm going to drop off my children, and parents are stopping where they're not supposed to and letting kids out, like middle of the street, and kids are almost getting hit. And so that although we have crossing guards whose job it is to help the safety of our students crossing those streets, we as parents also need to do our jobs and make sure that we're actually having our kids exit where they're supposed to, so that the crossing guards can assist, or, you know, the roundabouts if your school has a roundabout. So I just want to add, please, we can all help with this situation if we follow the signs and the routes.
well, I don't have too much to say. I am a crossing guard, and so all those estimates that's been echoed, they are true. People sometimes do not respect by the signs out there. Parents are trying to get in and get out, and it's a hustle and bustle. So kudos to whoever's idea was those 5 crossing guards. I mean, it's been a long time coming. As far as I'm concerned, you still don't have enough because it's hectic out there. And to Miss Hannah's point, it ain't easy being out there when the school is one day school is out because it's cold, but the next day it only went down 1 below. Then you got to stand out there for an hour with those kids. That's not easy. Right. And when it's raining, all the raincoats in the world don't help you from getting trenched. Right. But again, so kudos anyway to whoever come up with the idea of getting more crossing guys. And as far as I'm concerned, whatever we can do from this point on to help you to keep those kids safe, I think that's our job. Thank you.
Mr. McBride, I was a crossing guard too. Yeah, so I do understand. Yeah.
Thank you to all of those who help keep our kids safe. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Miss Hannah?
Yes.
Miss Gonzalez?
Yes.
Miss Fabian?
Yes.
Miss Lansing?
Yes.
President Ewing?
Yes, motion approved. Item carries. We have item C, Superintendent Contract Amendment.
It is recommended that the Board of Education approve Amendment 14 to the superintendent's contract, setting forth her performance goals for the 2023-24 school year and confirming her performance as related to bonus targets.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McBride. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Gonzalez. Any comments or questions on the motion? Go ahead, Ms. Lindsay.
There were a couple of public comments. Are we able to comment on any of those at this time?
Very briefly, as we are acting in public, so the board cannot act in private, right? So, my opinion, also because the board is aware of the timeline, wouldn't make sense to hold them over, right? The board is seeing, the public is seeing what the questions and conversations are. Ms. Vanderbroek can discuss further on that opinion and was it binding. It definitely should guide our work, and we did discuss it. But the process that we followed has been the process that we have followed traditionally. So that is to the first point that we heard from public comment related to Mr. Vukovic. To the second point around the KPIs, last year when we approved the superintendent's goals, we also set 5 key performance indicators. So they weren't attached to this, but that's an easy fix, right? We know what they were. They were approved at that time. The superintendent hit 3. We can highlight which ones those were, just like Ms. Alajak has proposed for updating the one item in public comment, if that would make it clearer to the community. That was work that was previously done, but asking community members to remember what happened last year, I get it, right? It's a fair ask. It's not anything crazy that we can't do or accommodate. Anything else that you would need me to elaborate, Ms. Lindsay, on that point? I want to make sure I'm answering those two.
Maybe that was previous to us.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, no, I think those were the 2 pieces that I took away, was that it's not referencing the pieces in the closed session versus open session.
Got you. All right. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a comment.
Go ahead, Ms. Hannah.
I think that there is, I often hear the comment about we're moving in the right direction, and in some senses, there's movement in teaching and learning in terms of getting our reading on track, and we are we're working very hard for that. However, there's talk about the KPIs, and in all truth and honesty, I was just thinking about this. There's more to a school district than just KPIs. There's the biggest thing is the education of children, and I have been doing a lot of research in terms of our state report card scores, and I was just picking random schools from all over, and I often hear, well, we have to compare ourselves to I think the word that was used with me with homogeneous, other school districts. And I was referenced to go to Elgin. Well, it's really interesting because Elgin, unlike Waukegan, Elgin has 53 school buildings. 53. We only have 22. And as I looked at their report card, there's no comparison to Waukegan versus Elgin. Okay, and I also looked at North Chicago, looked at Zion, I looked at Libertyville, I looked at Mundelein. I looked at all those schools, and those schools, even after COVID, okay, I looked at those report cards, and we can't even strike a match to those other schools. So I'm going to say that we need to stop saying to look and compare our school district with others, because it's kind of embarrassing. Okay, and so getting back to the point I was making about that the district is much more than KPIs, and as a board of education, we're not supposed to be just looking at KPIs. Our job and our duty is to look, and I'm sure you all have heard this in sessions with ISBE representatives at conferences, that our job is to look at the whole big picture of our unit school district. And if we did that, okay, and I don't know if there would be, and I'm not trying to disrespect anyone or anything, but I'm just speaking truth, that looking at the whole big picture of our district, I don't think that it would warrant a bonus right now. We have to, there's different aspects of public education. And just to say the KPIs, what about our climate, the district climate? What about the satisfaction of our staff? What about the satisfaction of our students? And I submitted to the board president and the superintendent, researched. I went to school for research and statistics, and I devised a survey, a student satisfaction survey, a staff satisfaction survey, and a community satisfaction survey, and it was never acted upon. And so we still don't know. Okay, I mean, we hear people, and people talk to us and tell us things, and we hear people come into the podium about different aspects of concerns that they have. And the word merit comes to mind on jobs that I have had. I would get merit raises, and merit raises is built, is like intertwined, if you will, with your performance of, the operations of something and how well you're doing with something. And so I think there's more work that needs to be done in and around the district to bring us to a place where the image of our district is such that we don't have to worry about not having candidates to go into our classrooms for teaching of our students. We don't. We are the concern at our high schools and middle schools where there's the constant fighting and all that. And I know how you hear people, oh, well, it's happening all the way around the world. Guess what, people? I don't care about all around the world. I care about what's going on right here. Can't control about everything in the world, but we can control what's going on here in Waukegan. And you know, I'm not, as I said, I am a part of a governing body, and to take and to grant or to give out a bonus because of 3 points that doesn't have anything to do with the total operation of the school district. I don't think right now it is a good thing. A community member called me and they talked about the taxes being raised, and if taxes are being raised, more money coming into the school, ESSER money, and coming into the school, budget much higher than we have had in historical times. But then we look at our state report card, and the state report card, remember, is what is being sent to the state from out of the school district. They don't get those numbers willy-nilly at the state. It comes out of our school district. And I was honestly looking at all of the different points on the state report card, and all those schools that everybody often tells me to go and prepare, their freshmen on track much higher. Okay, their post-secondary remediation much lower. All of those things. There's many other things, okay, that me personally as a board member I look at, and before I say okay to a bonus, to a raise, to an extension, whatever. It all works in together. And so I just think right now there's more work to be done at this point, and but you know, the people are going to vote their conscience. It should be for the work that's being done, and not for any other reason, but for the whole big picture. Thank you.
Ms. Lindsay, Ms. Fabian, and then Ms. Gonzalez, I see you.
I have 2 big points that I want to cover with my comment. Transparency and accountability. Transparently, I as an individual, before I got on this board, was not happy with where our school district stood in terms of how we are scoring and how are we performing and how we are serving our students. I don't think many of us are happy with that, and I, on a personal level, would like to see more growth in this regard. With Ms. Hannah's points, a lot of that is true. We also have a separate metric in which we measure our superintendent based on their daily duty performances. And to my understanding, This is just with regard to bonus eligibility. Transparently, this board approved last year the parameters in which the superintendent was going to earn their bonus. On an individual level, people may not have agreed with it. As a unifying body, majority won, and that's what was decided. So for me, the accountability piece comes in. We cannot change the parameters in which we are going to award anyone a bonus if there has been a majority rule on what that looks like. So I hear you, Ms. Hannah, and I agree. I am not happy with the state of the school district. It's why I ran, because I believe every Waukegan student deserves to go out and get everything they can from our education system and be prosperous in whatever community that they want, and go into any space and not get the side eye because they're from Waukegan. I full-heartedly agree with that. However, the accountability on where we are at also falls on the board. If the board agrees that these are what the goals are and this is what the bonus is based on, we have to keep ourselves accountable. If we're not happy with it, we need to set more aspiring goals for our superintendent to reach. From my understanding, this board has been very supportive when it comes to educating our students, to giving the resources possible to who needs it. That's my understanding. So if I'm wrong there, please correct me. But if we go back on what this board previously agreed was the terms of a bonus, what we are sending to our community and to when our superintendent decides that, you know, she's ready to live a life not working and retire, when we go to recruit another superintendent, they're going to look back on tonight's decision and say, well, that board went back on what they said were the terms to earn a bonus. So I want to set a higher bar, but we as a board have to agree what that looks like. This board previously agreed to set KPIs based on the Illinois report card. It was not 100%. Everybody had their individual piece. However, those terms were set. 3 out of 5 were met. So I think it would be highly inappropriate to to deny awarding the bonus based on parameters that were agreed upon. Do I like those parameters? Transparently, no. But we have another set of parameters that this board, the majority, has agreed to. Not on an individual, everyone agrees, but on a majority level, that's what this is going on. If we want better, we need to set higher expectations and provide those resources so that we can achieve, because very much to your point, Ms. Hannah, it is about the children, it is about getting them prepared for life and being successful. But I don't think it's appropriate to deny or change the game once we're at this point.
Ms. Fabian.
So actually, I was going to say exactly what Ms. Lensing said. I agree wholeheartedly. This was a decision that was made prior to us being on the board, but it was a decision that was made. And so for clarification's sake, right, if the agreement was made, these are the points, the KPIs that need to be met. Those were the metrics set upon. I myself at work have my goals that I have for the year. I would hate that when my final evaluation comes on the day of, all of a sudden I'm told those don't count anymore and we're going to set new ones today and evaluate you on the past. That's not fair. That's not how I would like to be treated, and that's not how I would like to do business, because that also opens us up not only to other superintendents, but then when we're looking at staff, the rest of our staff as well.
But they're not ours.
Right? Well,
but yeah.
The district staff, yes. Right? Big picture, I would not want any staff member in Waukegan to be treated that way. So that being said, my understanding is also that the report card metrics were utilized because that is an outside metric that is verified by an outside entity, and so that isn't some abstract or, you know, something that could be fudged. And then the last point I wanted to bring up, which Ms. Hannah brought up about those surveys are there. They're called the 5 Essentials, and I would like to remind everybody that that is open for everyone to take now. So there's a survey for parents, there's a survey for teachers, and there's a survey for students. So that's a research-based from the University of Illinois.
University of Chicago.
Sorry, University of Chicago. It's research-based on what are the 5 elements that move a school. So again, that's another opportunity where we, as community members, as parents, any staff members, can also put their perceptions anonymously so that we can see that, and that's also a point on the Illinois report card.
Thank you. Ms. Gonzalez.
Yes, I just wanted to add, I agree with everything that has been stated by the previous board members who shared. One thing that I just wanted to reiterate for our community and everyone who may be unfamiliar with key performance indicators is a little bit about why we decided to go that route. Because and it's not to be cold and exact, but I really want to prioritize the progress of the district as it relates to our academic achievement, right? And if those scores are not moving at the level of the Illinois report card, right, in terms of our reading attainment, in terms of our graduation rate, in terms of all of these things that we know would help a student be the most successful, right? I think that we're doing our student body a disservice. And so what we decided as a board and instructed the superintendent to do was, yes, prioritize these goals, right? Because we need a little TLC in certain areas of the district, but you need to be moving these levers, because if we don't see those percentages change, we know our students are failing. And we don't want any of our students to be further behind than they already are, because they are at a disadvantage. And so that's why we move in tandem with these goals, which some of which are more qualitative, but also the quantitative goals, right? What percentage of our students are actually reaching the goals that we want? And that's why, as we support and provide tools to help the staff do their job, and as far as I've been on the board, we haven't really said no to any of the tools, right? I know we've debated a couple of them, but we have not outright denied any single tool. It is my expectation that we do continue to push the limit of aspiration, because I think that we could, exceed the expectations, and I think we have, right? This previous year we had, but we, the only way we move exponentially is to keep the momentum that we've earned up until this point.
All facts. I want to very quickly summarize, because there's been a lot of words. So we approved KPIs when we approved the goals last year. Those are what the board members are saying. So it would be wrong to now change them. We set what those 5 were. Superintendent met 3 out of the 5. That's part of it. We also are accepting new goals for this year and setting new KPIs, which the same process, right? The Illinois School Report Card, it was already stated. We use that. Is because I'm going to tell a story about my friends. So Anthony McIntyre is sitting in the back of the room, and I'm sorry, Mr. McIntyre, but it's relevant. And one time we were talking about different programs, and I was going on about the programs, and he said, Brandon, we're not talking about programs, I'm talking about people. And my response is, the program was the people, right? Is you can't have the program in the metrics without the people. And so those KPIs that we chose, freshman on track rate, graduation rate, reading attainment rate, the mood of the district, or the 5 essentials, right? Which 5 essentials goes into your school rankings and ratings, right? So all of those things help tell the story of the health of your district. And so these KPIs are tied to students. They are not tied to individuals. They're not random numbers. They're not something that we picked out of a hat. We focused on areas that show student growth, to Ms. Gonzalez's point. So I just want to make that crystal clear. I do think we are, and I'm going to go to you, Ms. Lindsay, for a final comment, at the point where we will have to vote our conscience. But this is very, like you said, it's holding ourselves accountable with our obligations, but it also is, like, I don't think that it's, whatever. I'll pause there. Go ahead, Ms. Lindsay.
I apologize. There was one aspect in what I was talking about that I forgot to mention. I did like the commentary by Mr. Vukovic to make sure that he said it's a two-sided
Yep.
goal, so achieving things within budget, right? That to me makes sense. And so I think as we're looking to set goals next time, I'm going to continue to be an advocate to push it because we're not happy. And if things are not working and we're not achieving those goals the prior year, we need to reassess. And if we're not doing what we need to be doing, then that's a cue to our administration to figure out what works so we can get what's good for the kids and what's going to get them to succeed, and to like listen to the feedback of those using those tools. But I do want to make sure that we keep his comment in mind with doing things within budget. When we're looking at schools, make sure we're not dumping all of the resources into one school so that it meets that goal. That's not the intent. The intent of this board is that every school gets everything they need for every student. So I wanted to highlight that because I thought that was good feedback, Mr. Vukovic.
Ms. Hannah, final comment.
Yeah, final comment. And one of the biggest things that is of concern to me is the fact that our 8th grade students that's going into the freshman sophomore building, that and that's one of the places that needs improvement, right? And it just hurts me to think about the 8th grade students that are first-time high schoolers, and they're going into an environment that is going to impact their entire high school experience. And that's so important. You know, they're the first time in a high school, and they go into an environment that's got violence, and that you know, they walk into these young children, they haven't been exposed to you know, going into a bathroom and they get hit in the face with a cloud of either cigarette smoke, marijuana smoke, into you know, and my heart goes out to those babies, first time high schoolers. And it has been 2 consecutive school years that this has been happening. So for the last 2 years, the students that are there now, right? And I have heard it being said that because of the way they're coming out of the 9th and 10th grade campus, that now all of that chaos and stuff is being transferred over into the what I call the upper grade center. And so I heard someone talk about it, and my recommendation, and I hope that the board really gets serious about this, is to go back to our smaller learning communities so that we can get a handle, particularly at the high school, where the children are not as, and for the sake of conversation, helter-skelter all over the building. They're in one area in different places of the building, and they have the leadership in each of the communities, you know, where they don't have to get a pass. Let me get a pass to go to my counselor, and they have to go around the world, downstairs, into, and wherever else they end up. It's right there with them. and it was much safer for the students. It was safer for staff members. And so we really need to consider putting our smaller learning communities back in place.
Thank you, Ms. Anna. Roll call vote.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes, I'm I'm going to pass because I was not at the meeting where the board met and discussed this. However, I've listened intently to what the board says, and I will go along with whatever the board wishes in this, but I feel like I needed to be at that meeting to express my own concerns, so I'm going to pass.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
No, unfortunately.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Ms. Fabian?
Yes.
Ms. Lindsay?
Yes, with the comment. Again, these were previously agreed upon. I'm not happy with them. I would like to see more, and in future goal settings, I'm going to expect that the board is going to aspire for more as well.
President Ewing?
Yes, item approved, motion carries. Financial reports are there. We got 16A post-issuance compliance report.
It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Education ratify January 2024 processing of board bills, manual check request payments, and Old National Bank insurance payments for the period of January 17, 2024 through February 6, 2024. The accounts payable board payments for the period of January 17, 2024 through February 6, 2024 total $3,537,501.93. The manual check request payments for the period of January 17, 2024 through February 6, 2024 total $5,317,178.53. The Old National Bank insurance payments for the period of January 17, 2024 through February 6, 2024 total $2,083,345.39.
So you went to 16B, right?
Yeah.
Is that-
Oh,
which
did I
is
go to the
fine.
wrong
That's
one?
okay. We're at
We'll just
16B.
jump in.
So do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Riddle, second by Ms. Gonzalez. You're on the floor. I didn't want to stop you.
Yeah.
All those.
Roll call. Any comments or questions on the motion?
Just make sure that it is noted that we did go out of.
Yeah, 16B.
Yeah, that-
Roll call. The motion was for 16B. Roll call.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Ms. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
I pass.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Ms. Fabian?
Yes.
Ms. Lindsay?
Yes.
President Ewing?
Yes. Item approved. Motion carries.
16A.
Oh,
The post
it might be on the screen, no?
The report.
Can we go back to 16A?
We're not at, yeah, so 16A.
Yeah, can we get somebody?
Yeah. I was making
Oh, I
sure.
see.
Okay.
So
Can
they,
we get somebody to explain? I just want to know what this is.
is there a specific question?
Just what is the issuance compliance report?
Can you speak to it briefly, Ms. Pope?
Sorry.
And I do read everything that I get, and it's still I don't get this.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So this is an annual ritual that needs to be done in order to disclose our financial statements to the bondholders. It's usually done in January or February. We have, when we get our annual financial report done by the auditors, we send it to Elizabeth Hennessy at Raymond James. She does the financial, she does the disclosures, and sends us an email that it's been done.
And that goes to the SEC.
SEC, correct.
Yes. Okay.
Or it's called Emma.
Right. The Security Exchange. Okay, I got you.
Thank you. Yeah, so due to time and that we have to go back into closed session, unless there are any updates that are needed for the committee reports or delegates report, I'm going to go to 17C.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight for superintendent's report, as you know, we started the year earlier this year, and so we're going to end earlier. So it's about that time once again for summer school, which is one of our favorite things because it allows us to close that instructional gap with the summer lost. And Ms. Jennifer Rice de los Sanchez is going to present our plan of what summer school will look like from pre-K through senior year.
Yeah, thank you, Superintendent, Board President. Good evening, Board of Education, community and colleagues. So we really wanted to get this in front of you, and even looking at last year's presentation, it was April. And so we're happy to share with you what we have planned thus far and what is in the works for the summer for the extension of the year. Thank you, Lee. So to just hover over this for a second and really looking on the left-hand side, you're going to see what the hours of all of our staff is. When their dates start, which is our 2 days of professional development, which is the 29th and the 30th. You're going to see that our last day, the other bookend of all of this, is going to be July 1st. Our staff will come back. They'll have 1 hour record keeping. So we're keeping it to really what our staff and what our community is asking for within a full month. That gives our staff about 4 weeks before they're coming back in very late July, early August. As well as our students and families, 3 to 4 weeks in between there. You're going to see the hours for student attendance for our pre-K through 8th grade there in the middle, as well as for our high school. What is different this year, the shift that we're making, is really a big push for in-person credit recovery, as well as enhancements at our high school. And we're offering 2 sessions this year. We're going to see an AM and a PM session. So we're looking at students that need within our core courses that have the highest failures, trying to put teachers in front of them and teaching those core courses so that they have that NCAA piece, and as well as our 8th graders that are coming in for an enhancement. If they have passed their Algebra 1, that they even have that geometry that's happening over the summer to really put them ahead. So that's for, those are our dates and our times. This is really the shift just to continue our Tier 1 focus. That is really where all of our planning is continued for the year. We want to make sure that our schools are prioritizing students. And right now we're just looking to see how many teachers we have. We have a ratio of teachers to students. And so a lot of it just ends up being a math problem, and also with our locations that we have for the summer. So how many students do we have per classroom based on the number of staff that we have and that apply and go through that application process. So we're going to prioritize those students that are in those promotion policy once that comes to fruition and it gets voted on. But we're looking at those students first that need that support. They're going to fall within percentiles at each school. This is the same process that I could say that we've done for the last 3 years. And those, as I spoke to with our freshmen with the readiness courses and that credit attainment and credit recovery, we will still have online credit recovery as an option for students. And so we're looking to see which teachers do apply at our high school. I will be teaching one of the courses too for English, and so I look forward to just kind of getting our hands wet and rolling up our sleeves so that students have the opportunity face to face. These are our schedules for elementary and 8th grade. These are really a repeat schedule as far as what our day looks like, sounds like, and feels like. For elementary and middle school, we had the same thing last year. And when you see right here the big push within our pre-K through 8th grade, this is the same framework as last year, in which we were just scratching the surface of our science of reading, our explicit knowledge building and vocabulary building on the unit before they go and study it. So for example, if we were to look at 3rd grade, you're going to see within 3rd grade that they're going to have 2 weeks, they're going to have half the time within a social science unit and half the time within a science unit in which they will learn when they go into the next grade. So it's front loading the information and the knowledge before they go in as that extra scaffold. So that's really the intentionality behind this. This is, again, our second year in a row with this. And just our next steps so far, in which we'll come back and we'll update you on how these are coming along and how we're benchmarking, is just that campaign to continue our communication, registration. This is by school, and the hiring process, and just updating all of our documents, our handbooks, and feverishly moving that along. I mean, that's it. So I'm excited to be here this early, let you know. A lot of the feedback from the board is that we are, especially in our high school, that we have that face-to-face, and we have more adults in there that are teaching courses. So we're happy to share that with you.
Can we go back to the schedule?
Yeah. One more, Lee. One more back. Yeah.
Mr. Riddle, I'm going to use you as an example, but when we see that enrichment school-based proposal aligned, every school does a little something different. Some do cooking. That allows each school to put their own twist on what their student needs or what their school community is, what's important to them. And so we're allowing our schools to have that autonomy to build that out, of course, with the approval with teaching and learning.
Yeah.
So
one
there's
thing
a
I wanted to share, Superintendent, is that last year, one of the main differences is we went 4 days, we're going 5 days for this summer. So about the same time frame, but we're going for 5 full days.
Very quickly, I have a question. Would a severely deficient or credit deficient student be able to do both AM and PM?
Yes.
Yeah, it's there as right. It just would just depend on what they're deficient in, what course, and that we have the teacher if they were to be within that live teacher, and also they will have the option for online.
And do we know how many credits just in person a student can recover during summer school?
Well, if they were to do an AM and a PM for that duration, it would just be those 2 courses if they were. I'd have to even look at how many, because I don't know the answer to that. For those 2 plus online, I don't know. It could be that the opportunity is endless of how many you could do, right? Yeah.
So, and I'm going to go to this one. It's Ms. Gonzalez, Mr. Riddle, Ms. Lindsay, and then Ms. Fabian in that order. Ms. Gonzalez?
Maybe come back with that answer, because I also don't want them to speed run through the.
Well, yeah, I really don't know. We're definitely coming back with that. I don't know what the max capacity is.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that would be helpful. I did want to say thank you for expanding and the team for working on this. And President Ewing has been a strong proponent of extending the school year and the school day. One thing that I wanted to know is, and maybe just because it's listed right here, we have elementary and middle school. For the high school, the courses that are being taught are specific courses that the teacher has the capacity to teach, or is it just core courses?
We're looking for core right now, and it just depends. It's pending. It's like TBA.
Okay.
Of who applies.
Yeah.
But what we're shooting for
that really
is
depends
core.
on the teachers that apply, right?
Yeah.
So if we only get 2 math teachers, that would dictate how many sections we can open, versus how many English teachers, history teachers. So
yeah, that's correct.
So then, coupled with that, and just to get an update, do we know where the COG is?
As far as being complete?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Complete.
And I
complete and being worked on and being worked on with families and counselors.
Okay. Awesome.
Yes.
And I just asked that because the more that we can get it in front of our families and that they know which courses and requirements are aligned. Yeah, they'll know more intimately what they're deficient in. Other than
and
just
kudos to the high school team. Since you said that, I would be remiss if I didn't say I'm so pleased and so proud of them to have that done. Really by the end of December, which is the earliest that we've had it done. So I really appreciate the staff. It's work that's put in.
Where's the schedule for high school?
Well, it's the times, and it will be the courses, and it will be the scope and sequence of the courses.
So next up, we have Mr. Riddle.
I just wanted to thank the superintendent and yourself regarding that enrichment at 11 o'clock hours. I've seen that in practice at Abbott School for a couple years, and a couple other schools that I visited in the summer that were doing something like that. And I think when you summer school, when you have that hook in there that you give the students a chance to choose among several subject areas or things that they want to explore, and you also let instructors use their creativity in that area. I know Abbott had lots of different things.
Yes, they did.
One
Yeah.
teacher brought in, she was interested in horses, and another one in dogs, and another one in volcanoes. And so they did various things, and the children got to choose what they wanted to be. And for several years, they said that when they built that in, they had so much better attendance in the summer because the kids did not want to miss that enrichment area of the school. And it's
Yeah,
summer.
and now we're trying to be more intentional of knowing that they love the enrichment
Right.
and the opportunities to showcase even strength zones of a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
in addition to ensuring that it aligns to Tier 1. So we can have fun
Yeah,
and we
fun.
can learn. We want to make sure if we're learning about volcanoes that it's really about
right.
the knowledge and the content. that
Exactly.
is
We
within
all
it.
like to
Yeah.
learn, and we especially like to learn something we're interested in or something
Yes.
that we want to find out more about. So I think that's an important thing to let those summer kids choose something enriching for themselves. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Ms. Lindsay?
So as our staff is going to get more familiar with CCALA with regard to reading, one thing that this schedule as it is, and I think it's just based on the current constraints we have, at least that's my assumption.
That's
so I'm
right.
hoping
This
that's
is
true.
our current Tier 1 when you
Right.
see that. It will be it will be a shift next year. And in fact, it will be shown this month for the Amplify piece of what the intentions are for next summer's extension of Tier 1 with CKLA.
Okay, because here's some of my expectations and that go along with it, because our students, we have it structured where it's like kindergarten's going to be on this with reading, first grade's going to be on this. Our fifth or fourth graders not necessarily ready for whatever that fifth grade piece is, right? So they are missing some foundational building blocks on an individual level. So one thing that I would like to see as our staff becomes more trained and familiar with a science of reading approach is having targeted reading camps as summer school for our students, where we're not doing everything, but it's specifically reading.
Like by a location. So if kids
I'm
need
not going to
this
get into the
particular
specifics
skill-
on how you guys get it, right? But so I worked for Linda Mood Bell, and we did targeted 4 hours a day reading with every student, and in 6 weeks turn that around. So I'm not going to expect our students to do 6 weeks. I would love it.
Right.
But I understand people need a break, right?
Sure.
And since the contract is signed, I'd really like a balanced school year, but that's a different piece. So it's when that becomes our staff is acclimated, that's what I'm looking for, because that's what's going to close our gaps for our students. And it's assessed on our fifth grader is proficient at a third grade level, so we will put them at the appropriate level so that they can get up to speed to the fifth grade. So they're grouped with skills, so it's easier for our students. That's what I'm just putting out there is what I'm anticipating. And when we say that the staffing, it just depends on the teachers apply, 2 questions there. Have we ever been understaffed? And do we, do we hire for summer school outside of the district? Because when I had my summers off, again, I worked for a reading remediation institution, and we had and I was responsible for hiring people, and we got a lot of teachers. So is that something that we extend to teachers that are not Waukegan public school teachers, but just anywhere teachers?
I can't speak to the past just because I don't know. Beyond 3 years that I've been here, I'm assuming yes. The boss says yes. Thank you. I'm like, I'm sure because I know they've applied. Yeah,
There's
and even in elementary.
In
But
the
I don't know about
union
high school.
contract, there is a
It's-
process, though, of who's selected to teach. So if we get an overwhelming number of teachers, there is a process of
Where
how
we're
they're
prioritizing
chosen.
our
We
staff.
prioritize
Which
our
is perfect.
staff and even how we
Perfect.
prioritize our staff.
And that's how it's
Ms. Fabian?
And then I have a couple of questions, so bear with me. One, because we heard it in public comment, is can you please clarify how many credits a student needs to graduate in 2024?
They need 1 credit less from what it was previously.
So 23 credits, not.
If they needed 24, they need
Or
23. It's essentially.
Come back with it.
Yeah,
Please,
it's
yeah, just because I know that there's confusion in the community that when we move the credits to 17, that was immediate and it would be
Yeah,
for
no,
this class.
yes,
So if we
appreciate
could-
all the clarification,
We'll
but
come
it's.
back with that at the
Yes.
next board meeting.
So we can clarify how many credits a high schooler or a senior needs to graduate in 2024, number one. Number two, field trips, are we still adding that into the mix with summer school? Or is that something that's gonna?
It's open for consideration now that we have 5 days. So yeah, it has been there on the draft as far as for all of our schools to look at within the structure. Yeah.
Look forward to it.
They
in
love
school. And then clarifying on the number of schools that will be having summer school, is that also dependent on the number of staff? Do we have schools that are closed down for,
So can
reconstruction?
we come
Is that
back? So this is
Okay.
really early on, but logistically with operations, depending on what is taking place, like if all new windows are being replaced at one building, we won't be able to use that. So we'll come back with the locations that we'll be utilizing for summer school at a later time. And furthermore, this is the academic piece, just for the public and the board. You'll also see a extracurricular piece that's really focused on sports. So there'll be basketball camps, volleyball camps, bowling camps, they'll all different types of things, cheerleading camps, and for all ages, where parents will be able to have their child attend. That'll be a nice piece, and a lot of that's usually in the afternoon, so it breaks up the academics, and then you do have to transport, and there's busing, but we'll bring that back also.
And then, sorry.
Real
Did you
quick.
And then just last question, because this is the academic piece, and in the beginning of the year, I was hearing a lot of concerns over curriculum mapping and that being complete. So is that finalized? And then this summer school, is it then those themes that you picked, is that you said that's an extension of the curriculum map, but you're front
Yeah, that was
loading it?
exactly what Ms. Lensing was saying, is that this is our current tier 1. It's an extension of our current tier 1.
To front load, but so the curriculum map is done? Or is it still a work in process?
We're coming to the board this month. I mean, as far as what our tier 1 is that what you're asking? Yeah. On the docket.
Go ahead, Ms. Hannah.
Just one question. And I saw the proposed schedule, right? And you know me. Okay.
For elementary and then for middle school, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
And for middle school, you're not gonna just put a little bit of that CKLA in there.
Well, Ms. Hannah, I would love to do that. It's more about the training, the extensive training, right? But one thing that we have considered as far as the structure of our elementary is around what we use for 3 through 5, which is 95%. And so the structure of that is most definitely what we're looking at. It's a pretty rigid structure, and using a text that's at their grade level. But it's not that scripted CKLA for our older students that only goes to second, that we have for second grade.
Right. And like I said,
I
you
know.
know me, okay, and
Yeah.
I'm worried about those ones we're missing
Yes.
at the top.
Thank
Yes,
you, Ms.
thank
Hannah.
you.
Ms. Gonzalez,
Thanks, Ms.
did you have
Hannah.
a final comment?
I had a question, and excuse my ignorance because I don't recall it, but to make it more explicit that we don't have programming on June 19th because it's Juneteenth, and to maybe incorporate that into any lessons before that day, just because
Yeah.
I don't think we've done that. And
We
if
did.
we have, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
we did have that. We did. We had text, and I know that our
Okay.
team had looked at many things to embed for
Okay.
teachers to look at for resources. So
Okay,
yes. Hmm. Thank you.
All right, so that's there for information. The FOIA report. We do have old business. These are policies. So we have Board Policy 6046, Prohibition Against Bullying. It's a second reading. After the equity review, go ahead, Superintendent.
It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the amendments to Board Policy 6046, Prohibition Against Bullying, as set forth in the second reading.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Riddle, seconded by Ms. Gonzalez. Any comments or questions on the motion? All in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Policy is approved. Item B, Board Policy, Purchasing Procedures, Soliciting Prices, Bids, and Quotations. This is also a second reading. It's listed as an information item. Was there any clarification that you needed, Ms. Vanderprop? No, Are we still okay to vote on it, or should we wait? Let's wait, since we have it listed as information. Yep. All right, we got, no worries. Item 19C, I did too. Board agreements.
It is recommended that the Board approve the 2023 through 24 Board agreements as amended following Board self-evaluation.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Riddle.
Second.
Second by Ms. Gonzalez. Any comments, questions on the motion? All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay?
Nay.
Let the record note that there are 5 yeas, 2 nays. Board agreements are approved. No new business. We do have item C21, expulsion recommendation.
Okay, I have that, Board President.
Go ahead, Mr. Riddle.
Whereas the Board of Education of Waukegan Unit School District 60 did, through its hearing officer on February 1st, 2024, hold a hearing concerning possible expulsion of student number 278 and receive and review the resulting hearing report. And whereas the evidence taken at said hearing shows that the student has been found to have committed the act of battery to staff level 2 and vandalism level 2, which is in violation of the rules and regulations of this school district and the school code of Illinois. And whereas other available and appropriate behavior interventions and or discipline were offered and or provided to student 278 and those have been exhausted. Now therefore it is hereby resolved that 1, whereas the clauses are adopted herein by reference as findings of the Board. 2, the Board additionally finds that it is in the best interest of the district to remove student 278 from the educational environment at this time because the student's continuing presence in school would substantially disrupt, impede, or interfere with the operation of the school. The severity of the infraction demonstrates that the student's continuing presence also threatens school staff and students. 3, student number 278 is expelled effective February 14th, 2024 from attendance at the Waukegan Community Unit School District 60, Waukegan Public Schools, for the remainder of the 2023-2024 school year and first semester of the 2024-2025 school year, with the opportunity to reinstate at the end of the first semester of 2024 to 2025, based on successful completion of an alternative placement with the Regional Office of Education and continued counseling supports, the duration being warranted on the basis of the severity of the act of battery to staff level 2 and vandalism level 2, the lack of success of prior interventions, and the need for more intensive academic and behavioral supports in a smaller setting. 4, student number 278 additionally is prohibited from being on the school grounds or district property or participating in or attending school activities for the duration of the period of the expulsion, absent specific written permission of the building principal, where the activity is to take place for good causes determined by the principal in consultation with the director of student outreach or his or her designee. 5, the expulsion will be stayed, that is held in abeyance, to permit the assignment of student 278 to an alternative placement with attendance, academic, counseling, and other behavioral conditions as recommended by the administration, provided that student number 278 is accepted by the alternative placement. Resolution is read. I recommend adoption.
Motion by Mr. Riddle. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. McBride. Any comments, questions on the motion?
Yeah, comments. I just want to thank the staff for doing a thorough job of looking at the students' needs. And I thought the recommendation that was given for the student was, I thought it was honest, and I also thought it was a need. And once again, I say thank you for doing such a great job to look out and have a passion to do what's right for that student. Thank you.
Any other comments,
Go
questions?
that way first.
Oh, this way 1st?
Mhm.
Oh, I thought your hand was up first. I just want to make a comment that the board doesn't take these types of decisions lightly. A lot goes into decisions that impact students as a whole, but also individual students. And given the information related to the events that happened, I do agree that this is the best course for the student. So very first and foremost, it is the best thing for the student for this moment to get the services suggested. And then largely it's also important for the rest of the students at the school and for the staff at the school. So we don't take it lightly. It is a hard decision, but it's a necessary one so they get what they need.
Thank you, Ms. Lindsay. Did you have, go ahead, Ms. Gonzalez.
Yeah, just because I'm the Sour Patch. Like Mr. McBride and Ms. Lansing shared, this decision is best for the student given the information that we received and what was shared by staff. I think at the end of the day, we don't want any of our students to fail, and if that means providing them with a different environment to succeed, then we have a responsibility and a moral obligation to do that. At the same time, though, I think that incidents specifically like this one are important incidents that happen where we need to hold our staff accountable, because oftentimes the student is reacting, right? I'm not condoning the actions that some of our students make, and they should be disciplined as appropriate, and this is the case, especially when they're a danger to themselves and a danger to their peers and staff members in the building. But I think that we never want to escalate the situation and make it worse, right? And put that situation in put that student in a situation where they have to be in survivalist mode. And so I just wanted to nuance this conversation with that, because we have an obligation as staff members, as educators, as community members to understand that students really need help. And also I encourage parents and guardians who are looking at their student with, a lot of concerns and a lot of anguish to consider therapy and counseling, because this is what it boils down to, and that student is going to have this on their record and honestly have a difficult year. Hopefully not, but have a difficult transition, given that we have to make this take this action right now.
If there are no further questions or comments, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
No, and my comment is I'm saying no because I don't believe in removing any student out of the educational environment, and I am just hoping and praying that because of the situation with this student, that they are successful, and that us removing the student does not have an adverse consequence where the student will just not complete anything.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Ms. Fabian?
For the safety of said student, other students and staff, and the added supports, yes.
Ms. Lindsay?
Yes, and I want to thank Board Member Gonzalez for highlighting those aspects along with our responsibilities as the adult in these environments. But in addition to, if you feel that there are some concerning symptoms because of behavior is a symptom of something deeper going on, to get that help. It is A-okay to get that help.
President Yoy?
Yes, for those reasons that were stated. Item approved, motion carries. I do want to, it's now 9:07. I want to remind board members that we still have to go into closed session. It is board member time. I'm going to start with you, Ms. Hannah.
Nick, can I get my picture? I just got one thing. You guys, look, happy Black History Month, and this was the last thing that I was taking down for my Christmas decorations was my tree, and I said, well, you know what? It's already up. Let me decorate it for Black History Month, and that's what this is. And everybody has been asking me, what are you putting on it? You know how you go to different events and programs, and you get your button. I don't know. I may have sent you the wrong one, Nick. There was another one, and I got all my little pins on there, my bracelets, and I even got my black tassels and everything, and it's just a symbolic thing that I did for my family, and I just thought that it was kind of cool, and to show you all that, look, celebrating Black History Month. Thank you, Nick, for that.
Thank you, Ms. Hannah. Ms. Lindsay?
I want to start with Happy Black History Month. I am excited with where this district is going with regard to learning about Black history. Our textbooks coming out of Texas aren't always accurate, and we're making some moves and waves to get better history regarding what's really happened. And I'm very excited to see that trickle down to the younger years and make sure that it's not just a month that we're celebrating, but it's consistently through, just as we need to do with our other cultures as well, but specifically our Black history. I also wanted to comment with regard to some of the public comments that came out tonight. If board members aren't notified of events, we can't attend events. I've always been an advocate for having a very clean and clear district calendar to show everything that's happening at the school level, at the district level. If we can have it migrate to board member emails and administration emails so that we get those notifications, that's going to be helpful. We also need to know well in advance because we have to plan to make sure we can get that time off to attend those. We want to attend those. We want to celebrate the students. We want to be there for our teachers and our staff and our students and families. But if we don't know, we can't. There was a concerning comment, and it's not the first time this has come up, with regard to the Black Student Union. So that's very concerning, especially in Black History Month. It's kind of a slap in the face. So I would like the administration to figure out what's going on. Why isn't it as advertised? What we could be doing to get that information out. Because again, it's not the first time it's coming to us as a board, so we need to do something about it. And my final comment for the evening is with regard to the small learning communities and the houses. So I am a very big proponent. I've been very clear that I would like to see the house system come back. Because those smaller learning communities, that's where you build those ties. And I think maybe some decisions were made where we threw the baby out with the bathwater. But when we look to bring smaller learning communities back to the district, we want to make sure, to Mr. Riddle's point that he was also very adamant about, was that we're creating that sense of belonging, or that community. That's really what it is just building a community for our students. Cook, we approved for them to go to a conference to expand more on their knowledge for the house system that they're currently doing. I haven't seen a special presentation about it. I know they're very excited to share the information that they have, so hopefully that's in the wings and coming up. I know we have a lot to talk about, but this is something that the community has been continuously pointing to. So if they've gotten a great experience out of that professional development, I'd like to provide that stage for them. Other than that, please enjoy Black History Month safely. Get out there. There's lots of district events, school events, and there's also community-wide events. So get in touch and go learn.
To Ms. Lensing's point, even when we do know about the events that are going on, it's not for lack of wanting to go. We also have jobs and families, and sometimes there's conflicting obligations. And so if we are not present, please note that it's not for lack of wanting to go or wanting to support our students. Just sometimes there are conflicting priorities or we don't know about the event. Second, I just want to say on behalf of the housing system, yes, just ensuring that they are, if they are brought back, that they are brought back in an equitable manner, because that was part of the reasons that they were dismantled. And so ensuring that we are providing to each house equitably. For the Black History Month, as everybody said, there's a lot of events, but to the comment that was earlier, our BSU actually did used to support and help with our Black History Month celebration. So that is upsetting, but I do want to encourage any parent or community member that wants to support, whether it's Black History Month celebration, volunteering, or anything else, to reach out to your schools. There are FACE liaisons. Reach out to the FACE department and make that connection. And I agree that there should be a bridge there, but sometimes we have to build our own bridges. And so I want to encourage parents that are, listening to reach out to the schools and volunteer your services. A lot of the schools are also having their own Black History Month celebrations within their buildings. Happy Mardi Gras. I am Catholic. I do celebrate, but I also want to remind everyone Lent is coming up. Which for us Catholics begins tomorrow, and just be mindful of your students with dietary restrictions. And I always find that this is a good time to reflect, to really think about how we can improve ourselves, whether it's giving up something or starting a new healthy habit. So I use this time for myself to reflect, but again, just teachers, if you could be kind of mindful of that. Of dietary restrictions and staff when you're coordinating events. And then last but not least, well, actually 2 more things. Happy Valentine's Day. That's also tomorrow. Please spread kindness and love. I have a Valentine baby, so we celebrate in our house. And then President's Day is Monday, so please do not send your babies to school. Just a reminder, because I know sometimes we forget those extra days off.
Thank you. Good.
Thank you, Ms. McBride.
To you, Ms. Moore, I just want you to know your comments didn't fall on deaf ears. Thank you.
Mr. Riddle.
Yeah, just reiterating what fellow board member Christine Lensing said. I certainly am in favor of the small learning communities, and I'm not the only one. We have, every time I talk to teachers or students that were in those communities, they relished the fact that they were in there. It's something that can be done along with pathways. I believe that we know ourselves that when we're in a smaller group, we work better. Many of us, anyway, we learn from one another. Our children need a sense of belonging, and I think that if it's done right, it can be done in our district. It's going to take some effort to bring them back properly, but I think maybe we want to work toward that, and then everyone have a wonderful Valentine's Day, and make sure you love someone, give them a big hug or kiss on Valentine's Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez.
Yes, thank you, everybody. I did want to share that I was able to read in preparation for Black History Month and Women's History Month to students at Robbie Lightfoot and Clark Elementary. The students were amazing. I did send over Mr. Moulton some a strong encouragement to redo the driveway at Robbie Lightfoot, because it has been brought to my attention, and when I went over there, it was not pretty. So
I second that emotion.
Yeah.
I third that. 6-inch deep holes there out in
Very
front
bad.
of. Oh
I
my
did it
gosh!
daily.
I almost broke one of my new tires.
Right. So on the long list of capital improvements, I think when it comes to our youngest kids, you know, in our buses, not having any option to go but through, you know, I just wanted to put that on the record. And he promptly responded, so I want to give kudos to him too. And then additionally, I did want to encourage other principals and teachers to reach out to us if they do want us to go to a middle school class or a high school class. I know some of them sometimes reach out. Don't be shy. I work a very boring day job, but we have experience that we could share. So it's, again, not because we don't want to. Sometimes it's our schedule. Sometimes it's because we don't know the opportunities. So yes. That's it for tonight.
Board President, I forgot one thing. I apologize.
Go for it.
Also, Happy Lunar New Year. It was recently celebrated, so my apologies for not including that. It's
Still
Year of the
being
Dragon.
celebrated.
Still being celebrated.
Yes.
The kickoff. Yes, Year of the Dragon. So Happy Lunar New Year.
Very, very briefly, Ms. Polk, if you hear me, I know I was not able to make the first Capital Improvement Committee. Deputy Moulton, if you hear me, I know you're in the room. I know we have our line item for parking lots. I hope that we continue to carry over that line item for parking lots, and that we continue to make those much needed repairs. And then to the Board of Education, thank you all for this evening and for those comments. We will be going into closed session. I know Ms. Moore is here. Miss Patty, if you maybe want to connect, I don't want to assign, but I know no one from the FACE department is here. So if we want to maybe link in order to make sure that those connections happen. With that, I would like a motion to go into closed session under exception C10, student matters, C11, actual threatened litigation, and C21, approval of previous closed session minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Gonzalez, seconded by Ms. Lindsay. Roll call.
Mr. Riddle,
Yes.
Mr. McBride, Ms. Tanner, Ms. Lindsay,
Yes.
Ms. Fabian,
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez,
Yes.
President Ewing.
Yes, item approved, motion carries. If you guys want to do a quick restroom.